You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit, and as promised, part of our Evenings with Uber Guilds month that we've got going on here, I've got a very special guest in the studio today. He is part of the guild Legacy, who are top 10 in the world, I believe, at this point in time, and happen to be from my home server of Mazrago, clearly the best server. His name is Agaroth, and he joins me in the studio today. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. I'm great. I'm really grateful to be here.
Excellent. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role in the guild?
Well, I play as a protection warrior now, and personally I'm officer of the Legacy also. That means I'm basically second in command. And I used to play Holy Priest back in Vanilla, but re-rolled warrior during TBC to find a new challenge, so to say. And yeah, here I am.
Excellent. Now, tell us a little bit about the history of the guild, because as I recall correctly, this is going back a little while now, a couple of years at least, that you weren't initially called the Legacy.
Yeah, we used to play under the name of Massive on Storm Reaver originally, and migrated during the first wave of migration to Mazragos due to heavy lags, and then later on during Ankarai we changed guild name and also the guild structure, so to say, during Ankarai to the Legacy, where basically the guild leadership was changed a bit, but the guild as in itself with the members stayed to most of its extent.
Indeed. Now, you are actually top 10 in the world at the moment, is that correct?
Yes, I think Progress lists us as rank 3, but they only list after Yoxeron kills right now, and we had a pretty good kill there. So if you look at achievements, we're probably somewhere in the top 10, yes. Excellent.
Now, Yoxeron, how long exactly did he spend taking that particular encounter down?
I think we started on 2 p.m. and ended at 4 a.m., so that would be 14 hours.
14 hours
if
straight.
My math doesn't fail me.
Yep, that sounds about right. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Now, as I recall, you weren't able to test Yoxeron on the PTR. I would assume that you went onto the PTR to test the rest of the encounters in Ulduar.
Yeah, that's right, of course.
Indeed. So what did you think of Yoxeron in general? I mean, it's obviously, you've been through all of the big kills since Vanilla WoW, and you've experienced the cock blocks, you've experienced the bugs, and did you have any particular concerns going into this fight that Blizzard wouldn't be able to pull off the internal testing?
No, we were kind of sure that the boss was definitely doable, at least on normal mode. We were actually discussing if we should try it on hard mode straight from the start, but seeing Insidia kill it basically one day, I think, before us, we were pretty sure that they made sure that hard mode is absolutely not possible right now, so we didn't really take many concerns just going normal mode straight from the start. And yeah, so sort of just looked at it as a challenging fight, and that it was, sort of, at least for the first time. It was really well done. So yeah, Blizzard does obviously have some internal testing that can pull off good things, but yeah, it's a shame that they have to push so much on PTR to take away the experience of doing something the first time on live.
Yeah, that's entirely understandable. Now, how would you say that Yoxeron compared to previous big kill, end of instance bosses?
That's an interesting question, because it's always a big thing kind of to kill the last boss of an instance, and Yoxeron was no exception here, definitely. If you look back on the end bosses of the of World of Warcraft, you surely could see the straight comparison to Cthulhu. So you had a lot of things that were very similar with Phase 2, especially with the tentacles spawning everywhere around. So it wasn't like from the looks of it didn't really feel all that new, but it was, of course, very challenging to find out every aspect of the fight, so to say, because there was absolutely no strategy out or whatsoever. So that was really fun, for sure.
Indeed. Now, difficulty-wise, you've obviously gone through and killed pretty much everything. Did you actually kill, this is just a side point, did you kill pre-nerf Muru, by any chance?
That depends what you count as pre-nerf. We didn't kill the very first version where the sparking thing kind of pushed back spells. we didn't manage that where we killed the version after that.
The version after that, yeah, of course. So, difficulty-wise with Yoxeron, how does it compare? I'd say specifically to stuff in TBC, stuff like Kill Jaden, stuff like Muru. How would you say that it compares?
I think Yoxeron normal mode is a lot easier than most of the stuff in Sunwell, at least. But that is mainly because hard mode is available, and just looking at what you will need to bring to make up for what you lose from having the Watchers help you in the fight, it's going to be really, really tough to actually pull it off, and I'm really looking forward to try it.
So what is your opinion overall of the easy and hard mode strategy that Blizzard has put into play now?
I think it's worth. They're trying, but I don't think it's really good how they're doing it. Especially if you look at that you can basically shoot at the hard modes right away and don't have to kill the normal modes. I think that's really, really bad design, because well, you have to decide as a guild, and especially in the first week. I don't know how many hours of discussions I had with our guild master with that, how we should try to clear the instance, if we should just rush through everything or do some normal modes before, or some hard modes here and some normal modes there, or medium modes there and whatnot to improve the loot. And that costs so much time also during the actual raid, because you have to see like especially on Council, I think we tried the hard mode for some time and sort of wasted 2 hours there, I think, on the first night, because we just thought we couldn't maybe make it, but we didn't after all, so we had to kill it normal mode.
Indeed. Now, with your experience of some of the hard modes so far, would you say that it's weighed more towards the technical side of raiding, or towards simple gear checks, or is it a mixture of the two?
That is the really sad part of what I've seen from hard modes Ulduar so far. It's mainly, it doesn't add anything to the actual strategy you need to pull off for the fight. It's just a lot more rate damage flying around, or a lot of rate stacking requirements. Like if you look at Freya, it's basically just rate damage everywhere, instead of it's exactly the same strategy more or less. It's just a lot more rate damage flying around everywhere, pressuring the healers, pressuring the DPS. It's just you need to perform. It's a performance check, I'd say. It's not a tactical or strategy check so far at all, and that's kind of sad. Especially like Hodier, for example. That's like the pinnacle of rate stacking requirements. You can bring like 2 healers tops and 1 tank, and rest is full DPS, and you still pretty much won't make it, right, as it is right now. If you look at the Insidia kill from Thursday, I think it was they had to use the buff from the trash mobs and barely made it. So I don't think it's really possible right now.
Indeed. Now, there were complaints, particularly from some of the endgame guilds around the time of Sunwell Plateau, that raid stacking was excessive, specifically in the first couple of fights. I think Brutalis, if I remember correctly. I sadly did not get the opportunity to go in there, but I heard that Brutalis was very silly with regards to stacking. Now, Blizzard then went and said that they were not interested in creating another instance like that, and they didn't want another stacking sort of situation, and yet it seems to me that they have gone and done that anyway with the hard modes. Now, do you think that Blizzard perhaps have the idea that this is the kind of thing that hardcore guilds are aiming for? And if so, what would you say to them that hardcore guilds really want out of raiding, as opposed to merely a bunch of stack fights?
Well, I think Blizzard can't really do anything about it. They need to base it around raid stacking, because it's simply what will happen. Top guilds will stack the raids to optimize the performance of the actual raid, because it helps on every encounter basically. And what happened in TBC was that warlocks were just the top DPS, and you want to bring as many of them as possible, and you had Breast Shamans, who were just the top healers for almost every fight. And I think they did a decent job at least to balance that out now, but they will have to balance the hard modes around it. There is no way around it, more or less. It's just how much you will need to stack. Like I said on Hodier, you can bring 2 healers. That's just ridiculously low, because you're asked to have 22 DPSers ready to go there, and preferably of the right classes. That's just a bit too much, I think.
Yeah, I'd say that's excessive. Now, Algernon, or Algalol, as I like to call him, because I can't never pronounce that guy's name correctly. He can only, of course, be attempted for 1 hour per week. Now, what was your initial reaction as second-in-command of the Legacy when you heard that?
My initial reaction was basically, oh, that's a nice cockblock. Because basically they've done the same, if I remember correctly, to Velestras and Nefarian in Black Lair.
Yeah,
and they changed it to 1 hour per day, so you could soft reset it pretty early on, later on. And I think I'm decently sure that they will do the same thing here. They will wait for the top guilds to sort of reach him and let stay like this for a few weeks, so they only have 1 hour and get somewhat of an idea of the encounter, and then change it to one hour per day. Because 1 hour per week is, even if you have killed the boss already, is quite close if you like screw up or something happens and you have to take a break or something and you just lose the encounter for the entire week. That's quite punishing, I think, and they will have to change it, I think.
Indeed. Now, what would you say as regards to the fact that they seem to be very actively dabbling in hotfix tuning at the moment? I mean, they have nerfed a lot of the normal modes multiple times already, and they are buffing the hard modes in many different places, and they have actually buffed, I believe, in the PTR, Algalol is getting buffed again. His Cosmic Smash is doing more damage, and a couple of other things are being changed. Do you think that Blizzard really should be dabbling in such kind of real-time tuning and sort of moving the goalposts when guilds are actually trying to kill the boss?
Well, I think it wouldn't matter that much if guilds wouldn't have killed some of the bosses already. Like Thorim and Freya or Hodia as well have been killed by some guilds, and some guilds have been only trying and haven't succeeded yet, and then they buff it after. So basically those guilds that already killed it have an advantage over those that haven't, because they will reach Algalon sooner. And especially if you look at Hodia right now, I don't think we can manage to bring it down in its current form. And that's quite annoying, if I have to admit, because we just have that sort of block in front of us that won't allow us to reach Algalon, while certain other guilds that had 2 minutes and 30 seconds time instead on Hodir, I think was first version, will be able to test him while we're kind of stuck on him if they don't change it soon.
Get a shot at him, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's understandable. It does seem a little bit odd that they do that. Now, obviously, you're talking from the perspective of a hardcore endgame raider. There are a lot of guilds on our server as well. You know, there's many guilds that are sort of cracking their way through World War and normal modes and doing relatively well. You know, they're certainly not scrubs by any stretch, but they're not the creme de la creme. And they've been, Blizzard have been nerfing the normal modes quite hard and then buffing the hard modes in some cases quite severely, particularly with XT002 now apparently regenerates 150% health, and that's actually part of the PTR, which is way up there from the 40% that he regenerated earlier. Now, if you were in a guild like that, and you were seeing the gap get wider and wider on a weekly basis, do you think that would affect your morale and your willingness to raid in any way?
I'm not really sure. It's really weird with how they're changing the encounters so rapidly all the time and making them like easier and easier, the normal modes at least. It sure would. I don't know. It depends on what people really want from the game. If they want a challenge or if they just want epics, and that's quite the design issue that Blizzard has right now with catering to casual thing that they want to do, but basically they're just making it too easy. They don't put challenges for skilled people in there. They're just making it too easy, and at least on the normal modes on some of them. And I don't think that's the right approach. It should still be a challenge even for people that don't play as much.
Indeed. What do you think that they can do in the future, perhaps, to cater to everybody? Do you think they should revert back to what they were doing with vanilla and, I think, TBC, considered by many to be the golden age of raiding? I think they should simply go back to that and just say, hey, like it or lump it?
Well, it depends. I think the approach that they did to Sunwell was quite decent, that they really that it was really hard in the start, and then when 3.0 came, basically everyone could see it because it got really simple compared to what it was before. I think that was a good approach. and also in Black Temple, I think they did somewhat of the same, just nerfing it and taking away the attunements so everyone could see it. I think that's a lot better, because then you also have a clear progression line of how to kill the bosses, and in what order, and not just having the hard modes and you have to decide yourself, and you're not really sure what to do and how to do it and when to do it, so to say. That's a bit of annoying, because you don't have a clear goal in front of you. You just have like this whole thing, the whole complex, and you have to, you don't really know how to get there in the end. That's annoying, I think.
Of course. And one final question before we end this particular interview today, and I'd like to thank you very much for coming on today. It's been great. One final question is this: what would you hope to see from Blizzard's next attempt at introducing raid content into the game?
That's a hard question. I'd actually like to see something that can really stop us for a really long time, and is really like the perfect thing. I think I personally am still a really fanboy of the level 64 Horseman encounter. That was like the best fight I've ever done, and if they were able to make something like that ever again, it would be the absolutely top thing to do again. It was amazing to do it at level 60.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming on to the show today. Is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to before we end?
Just to the whole guild, so no one whines, I guess.
Blanket shout out, there you go. Thank you very much indeed, Agaroth from The Legacy. Thanks ever so much for coming on the show today.
Yep, anytime, no problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. I will be right back after this. Enjoy.